Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest webinar from Sport Business. I'm Ben Cronin. I'm the Europe editor for the publication, and I'm going to be moderating today. The title for this panel is Beyond Ads and Subscriptions, and it's brought to you by our sponsor, Agora. In a sense, this is a follow-up to an earlier session we held with Agora in June, where we talked to executives from UFC and also the International Hockey Federation about the types of functionality they would like to integrate into their streaming platforms in the future. In this session, we're going to be unashamedly commercial, if you like, and talk about new ways for rights holders to actually make money from their streaming platforms. It was interesting, I saw earlier in the week that DAZN Chief Executive James Rushton talked about the fact that they would be looking to expand into betting, fantasy and commerce to grow revenues. So the subject of this panel certainly seems timely. Before we dive into the panel, we're going to watch a short 1-minute video about Agora's real-time engagement services.
Increased competition from social entertainment, reduced revenue from ticketing, sponsorship, and media rights, and lack of audience engagement have made the sports ecosystem more challenging. With Agora, the sports industry can now add value and monetize the fan engagement directly through betting, tipping, watch parties, e-commerce, and provide a younger audience with more socially interactive and engaging content, such as social audio and social video. Real-time engagement is an essential tool for sports rights holders, broadcasters, and brands that are seeking to build fruitful relationships with key target audiences. The rights holders can sell live rights to broadcasters and social media while using user-generated content on your own social layer to create new revenue streams. The low latency and high synchronization are driven by Agora's software-defined real-time network, a large-scale elastic network with global high availability. It ensures the most effective real-time engagement experience for your fans. To explore how your platform can benefit from direct engagement from your fans in the post-COVID world using real-time engagement, talk to us today. Agora, redefining sports engagement.
Welcome back. So I'm now going to introduce our panelists. To discuss this topic, we've got a great bunch of speakers today with a nice blend of commercial, broadcast and technology experience. Murray Barnett will be well known to most sport business readers as the former director of sponsorship and commercial partnerships at F1. He's also the former chief commercial officer for World Rugby. Further back, he cut his teeth working for ESPN and was also the international TV coordinator for the NBA. Now he's distilled all of that expertise into his new consultancy focusing on the OTT side of the business, and that's called D2C Sport. Murray is joined by Ryder Baez, who's the founder of international partnerships and business advisory firm The Connect. Ryder acts as a strategic advisor to EuroLeague Basketball and plays an important role in guiding their digital strategy. And outside of this, he's the managing partner of SportThink, which is a specialist advisory firm focused on sourcing investment capital for sports that are seeking to innovate. And last but not least, we've got Tony Wang, who also joined us for our last webinar. Tony is the co-founder and head of emerging technology and markets for Agora. So welcome, everybody. Ryder, I think I'll start with you. Simply because you have a sort of a case study that we can refer to, really. As I said in the intro, you're working with EuroLeague, helping them with their digital products and their streaming platform. Can you explain a little bit about where that platform is, what you're learning from it, and what sort of commercial opportunities you're looking to exploit in the future?
Excellent, Ben. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's interesting because back when I was a full-time employee of the EuroLeague, actually, also we started building those capabilities, and especially around the OTT offering, which then and still now is a complementary offering to the fans globally. As you know, prime or premium properties like the EuroLeague have a vast array of broadcast partners, and which are the main windows into the product. So for us, EuroLeague TV, in partnership with IMG and the Endeavor Group, which is the joint venture partner of the EuroLeague, we are looking at it as a complementary offering that not only will allow us to take our content to those markets that we don't have an active partner, but actually to be able to engage other segments of the audience that prefer to have a more tailored consumption of sports content. What it is right now is a self-sufficient division that, as I said, we run in partnership with Endeavor Group and Endeavor Streaming. And the way we built that was to be able to allow us to, you could say, test and actually dive deeper into the different capabilities that we feel that within the next decade we should have for our consumers globally. And that's pretty much where we are right now. We are actually thinking ahead of the court because our objective and the mandate to the executive committee at the year league is actually to generate shareholder revenue for clubs, which are the shareholders of the league. And we are trying to forecast or foresee the way consumers will adapt and their viewing habits and try to build year league TV towards that reality.
Okay, yeah, and we'll come back to some of the potential opportunities and ways that you can create value for those shareholders. Murray, I know you've discussed previously and written previously for Sport Business and talked about just the data opportunities in streaming platforms and just how much you can learn from this sort of one-to-one relationship with a D2C platform. Can you talk about what sort of data is most valuable to commercial partners and how might you use that information to create more money for rights holders?
Yeah, in the sponsorship business, there's always been this famous thing about Manchester United having 1 billion fans around the world. And it's a very meaningless number because when you actually drill down to how many of those do they have any information on, the answer is relatively small, a relatively small number. And increasingly, sponsors are becoming more and more sophisticated and understanding that it's more about reaching their specific target audience and having a depth of knowledge and understanding of the people that they're trying to reach than it is having that big number. Of course, we're in a slight hybrid at the moment where the FD still wants the big number, but the people that are actually using the information understand that having a lot of data about a much smaller subset is of much more value to the business. And this isn't a new idea. This is something that's been around for a little while, but is much more difficult to exploit if you as a rights holder don't have a one-to-one relationship with your audience. Because I think as the sports business, we tend to forget that we are a business-to-business or have historically been a business-to-business industry, if you like. And there's definitely going to be some growing pains about becoming a direct-to-consumer business, but ultimately the rewards of understanding and having a lot of detail around your customers are going to be hugely important, not just for sponsors, but for all constituent commercial elements that make up your entire commercial revenue.
And how close did you get to understanding your fans when you were at Formula One and World Rugby? Were there any examples where you really tried to sort of leverage data to actually sell a sponsorship deal?
Yeah, for the 2015 Rugby World Cup, we came quite close to this concept with, let's say, Land Rover, to use them as an example, where we were going to be able to drill down into the ticketing database to such an extent that we were able to sort of identify specific leads or high probability of conversion amongst a relatively small subset of the total ticketing database. And that in turn, Land Rover was able to look at that and say, well, 50% conversion rate, which wouldn't be unrealistic for the kind of, very bespoke leads we were giving them, could be translated into real money, X amount of profit per Land Rover sold kind of thing. And, we didn't get it off the drawing board for a number of reasons, mainly around GDPR and time, frankly. But I think when you have any kind of league OTT operation or direct-to-consumer relationship, you're able to build that over time and you're able to grow the level of data that you have over time. And that's the most important thing, is that you're constantly dipping into a relationship with them rather than trying to make it a one-shot deal in terms of having just a ticketing database or something like that. And I'm sure we'll go on and talk about it, but the fact that you're throwing content at potential subscribers means that you're able to really understand what they're doing without having to have that feedback loop, because you can obviously see exactly what content they're viewing and understand their viewing patterns because of that. And therefore that gives you even more data about what's interesting for them.
Yeah, and this is a good point to bring Tony in. It has to be sort of done in an unobtrusive kind of way as well, doesn't it, Tony? You don't want to be sort of flagrantly sort of grabbing data at every point in the process. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that can actually some of the sort of features of a modern streaming service which can sort of gather data for you? I'm thinking sort of things like user-generated content, polls, surveys, things like that.
Sure, but I'd like to start with concurring what Murray just said. I think it's sports has long taken the broadcasting industry view. It's all about audience, how many you can cover, right? I heard the same thing. What I heard was 100 million, not 1 billion, 100 million for Manchester United, and I was surprised. I'm like, wow, if only I'm sure every fan can contribute $100 to $200 net profit to the bottom line, then Manchester United will never need to sell any rights because they are on their own. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So I think sports at the start basically taking the broadcasting media approach, but at certain times you need to realize sports is all about engagement. Sports is all about engagement. It's not about how many people heard of Manchester United States, right? It's about how many people is actually interact with the content, with the IP. IP here being your player, right? The soccer player and everybody, right? How many people are interact, and to next level, how many of those people are interact among themselves? Because what you're providing is a world-class cult-like IP that bring people together. That's a filter. That's also acting as a honey, bring the audience together. You need to provide the audience with a place to chat. That's why people go to sports bar. That's why in the US, we have a concept called tailgate party. You want to get together before the game starts. That's actually probably more important than the game itself, right? Have the barbecue. The barbecue culture and tailgate party and the sports in the United States is tied together. And at nighttime, you went to sports bar, work together. Even if you don't know each other, you always talk to the guy beside you. That is kind of interact people are demanding. Now, and to your question, when you have those kind of engagement and interactive, your fan is more than happy to give you something back. That give you something back is to ask the platform that is operate to understand me more. Let's say 4 of us go to sports bar. We really like the bartender. You will tell the bartender what kind of team you like, when you are off, when you're going to come back next time, what's your favorite drink? You will tell them, and you are going to tip them. That is monetization right there. But that does not happen. That does not happen if 4 of us does not meet together in the sports bar and have a meaningful conversation among us and the platform, which in this case is sports bar, while we're watching the most addictive content on earth that is called sports, right? So what really technology does has nothing new. Technology, company like Agora, we merely basically level the playground on top, providing tools for all the sports IP owners, right? Basically to be at the same playground with companies like TikTok, Facebook Live, Instagram, so that you can take back the interaction and the engagement from other platforms back into your platform. That kind of engagement is the cause of monetization. Monetization is very simple. You are engaged. You basically, you pick one credit card, tell the bartender, say, hey, put this on my tab, right? Monetization, I would say, whether it's e-commerce, sports betting, and everything, those are just once you already have the intention to give bartender one of your credit card, it's just one of those credit cards, whether it's called tipping, whether it's called subscription, sponsorships, whether it's called betting, it's just one of those credit cards. Doesn't really matter which one. They have to have the intention to engage with the content and the willingness to pay for the content to be entertained.
Okay, yeah, and let's unpack one of those potential revenue streams. One of the ways that you can sort of access the credit card. Ryder, do you want to talk a little bit about betting? I said earlier on, DAZN have suggested they're going to be targeting it. has EuroLeague examined it as a potential new revenue stream, and what are the challenges in targeting betting?
Yes, I mean, we being an European-based property from the EuroLeague, we have an advantage, which is that the evolution of the betting industry, it's kind of coming full circle back. Now we are facing certain, market regulations and more limitations in terms of what the betting brands can do here. So for us, the way we look at it from the offering perspective is that we have defined clearly kind of three basic pillars in terms of what we see as monetization capabilities for the platform. So on the one side, you have the subscription level, so it's providing access. As I said, there's a challenge in terms of how we have the TV rights map, but we do believe that in the next decade that will come back more towards from a central positioning. There's a lot of talk about the unified digital market in Europe and how that will affect the media landscape. That's one of the key questions to answer in the future. Then the other layer is actually through sponsorship and partnerships and how we can enhance the experience through brands. And that's where we see betting brands, not only here in Europe, as we've done successfully in the last few years, but potentially in developing new audiences and penetration in other markets like the US, in which you have burgeoning betting industry. So for us, what we foresee is that probably the way we will bundle this D2C offering through the EuroLeague TV platform is probably hand in hand with a local sportsbook operator there, that we can bundle the experience and all the add-ons that a marketing partnership deal can bring you, with the offering specifically tailored to them. That can be translatable also to the under 18 audience when you customize a signal, or to a specific other offerings that I think we'll discuss later in terms of social viewing or group viewing. And then there's a third layer that is as pertinent to the betting brand as it is to the property, which is something that Murray and Tony mentioned before, which is the data and the access. There's an active way of capturing certain data, and there's a passive way, which is basically watching behavior of those consumers that you have, and then you can generate other opportunities and other avenues for monetization for sponsors and the league itself.
Murray, is that sort of along the same lines as you would approach, a betting integration, for a sort of rights holder like Formula One or World Rugby? I appreciate it's different for different rights holders, but
yeah, I mean, Ben, you and I were talking about this a little bit, I think, yesterday, and whilst in Europe it's become, if in the UK we're allowed to call ourselves still part of Europe, it's become sort of a not as what's the word I'm looking for? It's become unfashionable to be a betting brand on the front of say football shirts, or it's becoming more difficult and more restricted. The whole advantage about direct to consumer is that you have a one-to-one relationship with your consumer, and you can create a customized product for each of them. So increasingly, and this is where OTT is just the most amazing thing, everybody watches sport for different reasons. Some people watch it because they're obsessed by the data. Some people watch it because they're obsessed by the tactics. Some people watch it because of the glitz and the glamour of it. And, Formula One, for example, is a great sport in that it encompasses all of those. And I don't think it's too far in the future that you would imagine the ability to choose from, say, 5 different Formula One feeds. One which is if you're obsessed around data. One which is if you know nothing about Formula One and need to be educated all the time as you go along. Another one, obviously, that you have already, which is I'm fascinated by one particular driver and I just want to watch them. One which is actually just I want to know who the celebrities and stars are that are at the race and see what their reaction is to the action that's happening on the track. And then, of course, there's another one, which is betting. And actually, I watch sport because I like to bet. Therefore, I will watch a betting feed. And what's different about the betting feed? Well, the betting feed can incorporate things like immediate betting, the watch and bet concept, but turbocharged in terms of literally being able to press a button on your remote controller or on your laptop and bet there and then at an agreed limit because you already have your card details input in there. And in some ways, that's a lot less offensive than being on the front of a jersey, which everybody gets to see and is kind of one to many, as opposed to making that decision that I am an adult, betting is legal in my jurisdiction. I want to bet on this sport. I pay a subscription. Therefore, I want to watch something that's very tailor-made. And on the other side, that's a real advantage to the betting brands, because you're getting, to the Land Rover example that I talked about earlier, you're getting a very highly motivated person because they've made that decision that they want to watch the betting stream of their subscription with all of that extra data. And the more that you push that data, and the more that you provide a fully customized feed for them that can be really valuable to them, the more likely you are to extract revenue from them. Now, of course, there's a whole nother discussion about, is that, what are the ethics of that? But certainly at the top level, it's an amazing opportunity for betting partners.
Yeah, definitely. And some rights holders are already doing this where they're providing alternative feeds. I'm thinking of NFL and its Nickelodeon enterprise. And I was talking to Bundesliga earlier in the week, and they were talking about how they've got a Bundesliga Next app for, they call it for Generation Alpha, which is one I hadn't even heard of before, but it's the one apparently after Gen Z. So there's sort of this business of differentiating feeds for different users. Tony, what for you are some? I mean, what could this look like? I mean, Murray sort of painted a bit of a picture there. Sort of technically speaking, how easy is it to integrate this sort of thing? Are we talking about rights holders taking a cut of betting transactions? What's best practice in your view?
Yeah, and I think I should almost grab Murray for my product marketing in this industry, because he is describing exact stuff that I'm building to support. So I'm already have the conversation about multi-camera. I've been pitched that since beginning of COVID, virtual ring for boxing, right? That's what we have years ago, right? It's just like we are mostly in the social media space. And all of a sudden I'm like, wow, wait a minute. I have a conversation with Tennis Channel, because look, I'm not coming from sports industry, and for the first time last year I was like, you are telling me you have like 20 raw feeds and I only got to see one that direct cut that is designed for me? You think what I like? All the other 19 raw feeds is basically wasted. That's what you're telling me right now when I'm watching TV, and that's my experience. And that's 30-second delayed, right? And to make things worse, so technical challenge, let me lay out some technical challenge, right? To basically see 5 camera may not come at the same time. If you think about this, we are transmit through internet or whatever satellite link. So 5 camera need to be synchronized. What you don't want to do is 5 camera is not synchronized. Let's take F1 for example, right? That's challenge number 1. Challenge number 2, if you are betting, how about your data arrive before the video feeds? How does that ruin your experience? That's happening right now with certain big fights in the US. And I was talking with one of the largest sports OTT company in the United States, and that is his experience. That ruined everything. And even worse, if we 4 of us are play together on betting friendly chat, and my feed was 3 seconds ahead of you because I have a broadband and my kids is not on Zoom right now at this moment, right? So I enjoy 3 seconds unfair advantage. How does that make you feel? You're not going to join this betting with me, right? That's number 3. Oh, so same use case, we're watching Formula 1, multi-camera, so each of us can pick the camera view. And now let's see with Agora, your data feed and your video feed is together. That counts one more challenge. So we start a watch party together, watch together and betting together, right? Guess what? Echo. Because number of the device right now is being designed to enjoy the content with audio from the speaker and chatting with a microphone. If you think, the TV manufacturer should sort of that. Well, yes, they don't, right? It's because this is designed for the mobile, right? So you not need to solve that problem, the echo cancellation problem with the main content and everything. So all those things add together, the challenge comes from one thing, and one thing only is the internet. Internet is designed for redundancy. It's designed for sending emails. It's not designed for real-time information, and it's not designed for real-time information among the people at the global distributed in different continents, right? So we provide the building blocks to basically level the playground such that what Mary said can be done, and it can be done easily without hiring 50 people and 2 years into the R&D. So that's what I mean by level the playground. Now, but we don't stop right there. Now you have the most engaging experience. Why do you, use my last session's example, like Why do you close the lights and kick people out of your sports bar when the long form content finish? Let them retain. If they want to chat, let them be here. Continue social, let them know new friends. This is the value, the network, the social network. I may not know Mary, but I was just, go to the bar, supposed to meet with Ben. Ben was late, and Mary was by my side, and we start talking. We're like, oh, we're both Manchester fans, okay? And now I have a new friend. That is how. Oh, okay, yeah, I saw that. Okay, how about Manchester City, right? Man City. Oh no! All right, Arsenal. That's my team. Arsenal. All right. Oh
Definitely
man.
not Arsenal.
All right.
Tottenham.
Okay. Doesn't matter. One of the Prime League. Okay, one of it. All right. So that's how we talk. But here's the thing: even if we're not in the same, we're not rooting for the same club. That's how the conversation starts. That's how the social network started. That's how the social graph is being retained in your application. I cannot emphasize the importance of the social graph. That is the most valuable asset every sports IP could ever own, because that graph will continue sucking new fans into you. That graph will help you maintain. It's an organic farm that you do not. It's equilibrium. You do not have to spend so much money to buy pesticide, which is we call the advertisement. Right? You do not have to worry about the yield, because they grow themselves, right? This is organic farming, with the social graph, with the IP content. So that's one. I want to conquer what Maury said, but I also want to go back to what the Wright said about the betting. For the longest time, European has been enjoy a monopoly on the market. I mean, you think US people don't go bet? They bet. They just go bet on Canada sites or Puerto Rico operated sites, right? Or in Europe, right? They do. But the technology has been stopped in the United States for the last 15 years since Clinton, right? But not anymore. We all know the craziness. It's before the law have even passed, the score, the feed company has been sold for $2 billion. Can you imagine that? What all they provide is a feed. The feeding, basically it's an aggregate of the feeds, right? And this is the beginning. So what you will see the competition from the United States, which is great because it's going to be pushing the industry forward. What does that mean? What does that mean to the holder? I mean, I have some random predictions, right? I think what Mary predicted is going to come to true, because you know what? All of a sudden you have 10 sports bar on the street versus before as one. Guess what? You're going to try every single trick that is to get user with the Gen Z behavior, short video, long form video, interactive video, social audio, whatever forms you have, you're going to attract to them. That's number one. Number two, you're going to make betting more micro, more fair, more friendly. Different formats would be possible that is not previously possible with the traditional way. So give you an example. We go to a stadium, inside arena, right? We have more options we can bet on versus a people that is 30 seconds away because he's watching the feed versus what he can bet on, right? So what if with ultra low latency, your feed at the global level, your audio and data feed is global level synchronized within 1 second. So all of a sudden, everybody can bet on every single thing. And they can bet on the thing you design, or they can bet with their friends, micro betting, right? 3-4 people just betting with their friends, whatever they want to bet on, right? And you take a risk anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right? I also think a lot of the smaller sports content will come up before your distribution is solely OTT and broadcasting. It's very expensive distribution, legal fee alone. If you're a small, tiny country with only 500,000 fans, you may not want to buy the sports like IP content because you're not make money back, but not with a mobile. With a mobile, you can pinpoint to the lab specific user in that one country. So you aggregate the global fan base of micro sports that's only 5 million people. But guess what? Those 5 million people, they have nowhere else to go. They come here, they spend $100 a year with you. So 5 million people, $100 per person a year. That is a $1 billion business, even it's micro. I'm talking about sports that is on the ranking popularity list, maybe out of top 30, right? So those are what I am thinking. that's going to happen. And it's not my prediction. That is where the user behavior is driving to. And it's basically all we are doing is recognize that your user on this device has been trained by other social media app, demand certain things. And here you have the best content, and COVID is accelerator to trying to merge those things together to increase. I mean, where the money come from? Well, the money coming from Facebook, because now they're taking all the money. So now money is taken from them, basically.
Okay, Ryder, I want to. We're sort of running out of time, and I'd like to sort of cover, our major sort of talking points. We've covered betting. Do you want to talk a little bit about e-commerce and how important it is to EuroLeague? I noticed you launched a store on Amazon recently, but how close are you to being able to actually integrate that into your streaming platform?
Well, we are looking and testing actually as we speak different opportunities. We are working with a top-notch tech company as well called Curve Interactive to be able to integrate in-feed those e-commerce opportunities and other, let's say, triggers that we can move fans with a non-intrusive format to transact with us. I mean, it's following the same principle as I was alluding at the beginning, which is that's why we launched the different storefronts on Amazon across Europe, was to service our clubs, which are the shareholders, so they could be able to have different windows to sell their product, their official merchandising. There are other licensing partners as well at the league level that go through there. But that's kind of the integration that we're looking to continue to give fans and consumers convenience and access, and us from the property side, scalability in terms of how we can charge the e-commerce experience. So for us, is actually the task at hand for this upcoming season. We will be integrating that along the season to be able to test different ways in which we can speed charge that. And when we talk about e-commerce, it's not only merchandising, but also it's ticketing and other type of digital product like content, micro content that we could be able to also to spin off from there.
And you said it's important for it to be unobtrusive. So what does that mean in practice? When people are watching a live feed of a match, what sort of invitations are they going to be getting to purchase products?
Yeah, the way we are looking at it is multidimensional. I mean, for us, unintrusive goes hand in hand with a good UX and UI design, and be able to be contextually relevant. We think that there's vast theory about it and practice as well, in terms that relevance means everything when you are triggering people to buy into the product. So for us, it's as relevant as to be able to offer those purchase options in game, related to a specific performance of a player or a team, that we can actually be able to have that process in parallel of purchasing certain products and services while the game is going, without actually having this fan missing out. And it actually goes to an example that Murray was mentioning in betting. If you have everything pre-configured, you have your credit card there, you have, we could make that seamless. There's the technology there. I think that for us, the way we are, confronting innovation is not only based on tech, but also based on mindset and being able to put ourselves in the shoes of the consumer and to be able to facilitate that. So it's all about convenience.
Okay, and what does e-commerce mean for you in sort of streaming, Murray? What do you think would be good practice from where you're sitting?
Well, I think that firstly, it's a massive area for exploitation, which has been very sort of underserved up until this point. And as Ryder said, it's about the frictionless experience. The more you reduce the friction and the more you bring them closer to the moment, the higher propensity to purchase there is. So, take Tottenham Hotspur, right? So Heung-min Son scores a winning goal against Man City in the opening game of the weekend. If there's an immediate option for me to go and buy a number 7 Heung-min Son shirt there and then, with just a one click like you have on Amazon, right there and then, I mean, the chances of me buying it are much, much higher than it would be, an hour after the game or something like that. And I just use that as a very stupid example, because if you collect the data properly, your e-commerce site or the data that you've collected around your OTT will already know that I'm a size large and this is my home address and all of that information. So it really can be that frictionless. And that's, I think, the crucial element here is make it as easy as possible. My alumni in Disney invented the magic band for Disney World, and they saw an immediate increase of 35% because they removed friction from absolutely everything. You have your credit card detail attached to the band. You didn't even have to think about, like, shall I buy this or not? You just put your wrist against a reader and you straight away got it charged to your Disney World room, right? And it's no different in sports or in OTT, that if you can create those frictionless moments and link them as much as you can to the emotion of the time, you're onto a winner. And the US League are doing an amazing job of this, where within minutes of the end of an NBA championship match, you're able to buy the championship T-shirt, right? And it's things like that that really make a difference. It's the time and it's the ease.
Yeah, and also Amazon's one-click purchase as well. Another example of frictionless experience. Okay, I want to bring in some questions from our audience now. I'm just looking through quickly and trying to scan some questions as I go along. So this is one from Murillo from N Sports, who asks, how do you see 2 to 3 hours live broadcasting for new generations? Talking about the near future, is there more chance of monetization of live events or video on demand? Tony, what do you think? Do you want to try and answer that one?
Sorry, can you do it again on the question side? Oh, you mean how does from Marino, right? How do you see 2-3 hours live broadcasting for new generation, right?
Yeah, I think essentially the question is, are fans of the future going to sit down and watch, entire live broadcasts of sports events, or is there more of an opportunity to actually monetize video on demand in the future?
Yeah, so basically what I want to say that is, so I went into traditional sports myself for the first time in a very good ticket position, and I falling asleep. That thing is 3 hours long. That is even better than live. I'm actually there in the arena, I'm falling asleep. And then later on I came back, like I was thinking I feel guilty to my friends who paid like, $400 for my tickets. I was like, wow, what happened to me? And I realized I don't have a dad that bring me to those sports when I was young. And that is a very American sport, right? So that's why I fall into sleep. So to your question, if they grow up, watch TikTok and play computer game, I think that will happen in the Gen Z, right? So, but that's not end of day. You have to catering them in the medium. Your medium have to change. It cannot be 2-3 hours long that has no interactivity, right? Your medium have to change, and you have to allow them to talk, the audience to talk among themselves. Audience have to be able to interact with the content. You have to add in some, interesting stuff. Even, just put this way, even just watching computer game like Twitch, all those, they are adding interactive. So even computer game is being outdated, right? They are adding more interactive stuff right now, and they allow audience to interact even with the game player by, so I think the future is there. You already solved the hardest part, which is creating the original content, the long form content. That's the hardest part. That's very cost effective. All you really need to do is adding on a social layer. Your user will do it themselves. You need to enable them to interact, and they will take it from there themselves. That's basically my thoughts, right? And then once they're engaged, you have an area of monetization. I actually don't think monetization is something you need to worry about. What you need to worry about is how do you enable the engagement, and how do you retain the social graph on your platform. I cannot emphasize the importance of that on your platform.
Okay, there's another question here. It's F1 related. Well, it's kind of F1 related. It says it's from Mihai, and the question is: you're probably familiar with the F1 TV app. When can we see such an app in other sports, such as football, offering 2D positioning of players, onboard player, cameras, sprint speed, ball speeds, and much more data. Murray, are you aware of anything like that that's in the pipeline?
Yes, I mean, so there's been products which have been around for a little while. Probably the one that I always seem to refer to is Court Vision, that the LA Clippers started, which was sort of backed by obviously Steve Ballmer and Microsoft. And there you have various different modes that you can watch, and you have everything from sort of a fan mode, which is with lots of sort of cartoon graphics and so on, which is a little bit more fun, if you like. But they also have a player mode and a coaches mode. And on the player mode, at any position on the basketball court, you'll have a percentage chance next to each of the players, determining what the likely scoring chances from that particular position, right? And then in the coaches mode, it talks a lot more about the formation that they're lining up in, the transitions that they're making between attack and defense, and so on. So a lot of those elements are already being included, and you know, leagues are cottoning onto that, and more are doing sort of versions of that. But if I can, before I finish, I'd like to just go back to the previous question as well, because you know, content is king, right? And so ultimately, be careful what you wish for in a direct-to-consumer relationship, because a direct-to-consumer relationship means that you have to create individual content for all of those viewers. So whether you are a 50-year-old viewer or whether you are a 10-year-old viewer, if you want to keep those people engaged, you have to provide them the kind of content that they want to watch, right? So it's not about whether people are less engaged about watching a 2-hour game. It's that you're narrowing the segment of people who are interested in watching the 2-hour game, because they're demanding that you also have an option to only watch highlights, to only watch shortened versions, or to watch it with more graphics, or with the ability to have watch along functionality. So certainly it's incumbent on anybody that operates an OTT service to really make sure that they understand their audience, and that they're actually trying to put content out there that's going to keep them engaged. So as Tony said, that they stay within your ecosystem, because you know the reason why Facebook and Google are some of the biggest companies in the world is because they've basically been stealing sports' money for all of this time by creating communities on their own platforms without, and it's completely feasible to create those within your own ecosystem. So sorry, I've answered about 3 different questions in a row there, but hopefully that was coherent.
No problem. Yeah, absolutely. It's about stopping Facebook from stealing sports lunch. Ryder, I want to finish with you. What of all the things we've discussed today, what for you is the priority for EuroLeague? You know, which thing out of e-commerce and betting are you really sort of focusing on?
I would say that in the short term, definitely e-commerce. I think is the most. I mean, we can even consider the betting function as an e-commerce integration then. But for us, it's actually to be able to achieve that type of integration across levels. And as I said at the beginning, in the different tiers or in the different segments of content, or how we deliver the content to the different audience segments, we should have a specific experience or funnel towards commerce that is relevant for them contextually, according in game or the type of content that you're consuming, and then because of convenience. So what we are trying to figure out, and this is something that we haven't figured out yet, but we are working on it, is to be able to have that solution in place as soon as possible. That's how we see the market going. And for us in the ecosystem that we're seeing here, in which you have traditional TV partners, broadcast partners are essential parts of our ecosystem because they also produce the local signals. You need to find a way in which all layers above and below generate value, and we see that potential through this function of ours in the D2C. But I would say that e-commerce in the short term definitely. And then it's about the finding and fine tuning the different ways or the different feeds or the different packaging of the content, either live, VOD, or near end of game, which is something that is picking up now in the US. That kind of last 2 minutes of a basketball game or last inning of a baseball game. trying to find those moments that are relevant across all market segments. And that's, that's a challenge, because we're talking about different consumers, and what we don't want to is go back to the old ways of one size fits all. So it's about differentiating those layers and differentiating the product. That takes a lot of time, a lot of investment, but definitely that's where we see the industry going in the next decade.
Yeah, and it's a question of deciding which areas to prioritize, I suppose. Right, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. To use Tony's analogy, I'm afraid the bar is closing now. If we were following his credo completely, this would be a 24-hour webinar, and we'd have social audio, betting, and maybe some e-commerce tacked on at the end. But we're a long way from that for now. So I just want to thank our panelists for taking part, and also our audience for submitting some good questions there. So thanks everybody for joining. Have a nice weekend, and hopefully you can join us again for our next webinar. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.